Hello, and welcome to another chapter of a tome pulled right off the shelves at the heart of the Jakuls. As always, I'm your skilled host, Lothran, and there's ever so much more data to relay. So let's get to it, shall we? Go grab a filling meal, settle into a cozy spot, and pay accurate attention to Fleet Part 68, Banality.
Alduin sat at the grimy little table in the corner of this dingy hole in the wall. Literally, here in the far grid as it was called, the lowest habitable section of Bitterrock, drilled into the living stone, furthest away from the vital core of production and invention. The poor always find a dank warren to scurry towards, and this place was no different than any other. A lot of the bleeding hearts like to imagine that the poor are pushed out by the rich and the wealthy, but it's mostly the poor doing it to themselves. Sure, there are victims here and there, just like everywhere else, but here, most of the permanent residents, well, they made their bed, and now they're going to wallow in it and loathe the person they might have been had they some semblance of a backbone. Alduin continued to pretend to sip at his drink. He had better stuff back at the office, and that was the cheap swill he drank 'cause he was used to it. This was barely more than colored water and piss. Alduin drifted back to his thoughts while trying to piece together the various frayed ends of info he'd already dug up. Them bleeding heart fuckers, yeah, they don't actually care about the poor. They say that that's their true goal, but what they really do is hate the versions of themselves walking around with as much resources as they can get while they suffer through having almost nothing. It takes a special kind of indolent moron to think that everyone should have nothing, so everyone can be equal, especially when everyone at their core is programmed to want as much as possible, and to keep gathering up more because that's what your blood and bones tell you is right. An older, ugly woman entered the dim bar, sauntering over from one table to the next. Jackpot. Alduin hid his excitement, pretending to sip at his drink while looking like he was too exhausted to even think or move, like everyone else in the room, really. The woman conversed with the men one at a time. She wasn't pretty, but she was picky. Someone had gotten to her. She turned down several offers of trade. It wasn't about price either, as one of her frustrated potential customers announced to the world.
What? My money isn't good enough for your ragged nethers? Right here, right now, double what you're asking.
The woman looked at the money, clearly thinking about it, and then she glanced around the bar hesitantly, shaking her head and moving on to the next table. Alduin pushed her hand away from his. He didn't know the right passphrase. It might ruin this little sting of his if he acted like any potentially poor customer. Here, a quiet moment and a free hand. A man at the next table uttered, just loud enough for Alduin's sensitive ears to pick up. It had been barely more than a whisper, but it had been enough. He missed what the woman said in return, 'cause of some drunk retching in the corner, but he heard the reply from the customer. My money, for your care and, your precious time. And then they left together. Alduin could have followed them, but he chose not to. He had no idea if there were any guards or soldiers watching, and there very well should be if this Zazo in question had so much control that the right passphrase was necessary to access a skirt, even in a place so seedy and rotten as a fallow slime pit like this one. So Alduin continued wisely sipping at his brew, draining his drink and acting like a potential regular, enjoying the atmosphere. He'd figured out the pattern for the bottom, always the easiest spot to attack first. Now he had to observe long enough that everyone told themselves he belonged there with them. So he kept on sipping, ordering a few more drinks, and then after another hour or so, stumbling off like he was haggard and worn from a day of extreme toil, just like everyone else. Paying too much for too little, or so they bellowed into the hollow spots in their own worthless minds.
And so it is. Our time together has once more come to a close. I hope each and every one of you enjoyed the tale as much as I have the telling of it. As always, I've been your dedicated host, Lothrin, and this was Fleet Part 68, Banality, another tale right from the heart of the Jakuls. And now, sadly, ever so sadly, we must once again part ways. Korvoth, guide them back along the proper path, back to the safety they know all too well.
Yes, sir, Lothrin. Oh, Alduin seems to know exactly what he's doing in a terrible place like this. A pleasant greeting and a fond farewell to each and all. Please leave all your comments, questions, and kindnesses down below. Don't you let me catch a single one of you leaving any of that nasty, abusive, or dreadful stuff, though. You keep all that garbage to yourselves. Got it? Remember to like, share, and subscribe to help us learn, spread, and grow. And don't forget that we strongly encourage each and every one of you to stay safe out there. See you again tomorrow for Fleet Part 69. Good night and good luck. You'll need it. Bye-bye, everybody. See you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.